This presentation is concerning the TI30XS Calculator, which is the calculator approved for GED testing, and in some states also for HiSET and TASC testing. This is just a brief tutorial that will walk through some of the important buttons you will use on the test. So the first is the negative button, which is down here. So you have a problem like -2 plus 5. You hit -2 plus 5 and then hit enter. And when you do that, you should get 3. The next one is 3 minus a -4, so do not confuse this minus for this negative sign. This one should be a little bit longer in this problem, but it's not. So this is a subtraction problem. This is a negative problem. So when you subtract something that's already negative, it'll make it a positive. So to enter this in, you'd hit 3 minus -4 and then hit enter. If you did it the other way around, you would get a syntax error of some sort. And finally, the tricky one here. -4 squared. So -4 squared, to do that, you actually need to put it in parentheses, because if you just said -4 squared, just -4 and then hit that x2 and hit enter, you would get -16, and we all know that is not the correct answer. So what you have to do, because the calculator literally reads it as I'm squaring 4 and then saying times -1 or times a negative. So what you must do is you must put the -4 in parentheses. So if you ever square a negative number, you have to put it in parentheses first, because then it'll say -4, because the parentheses comes before the exponent. So -4 and then square it. -4 times a -4 will give you +16. Next is answer recall. So let's say we just have 3 plus 5. I have 3 plus 5, then I get 8. And then I want to take that 8, and I realize later on in the problem I want to double it. So what I could do is I could re-enter the 3 plus 5 or just the 8, or if it's a bigger number. Anyway, the easier way to do that is you hit second and that negative, and it'll take the previous answer from whatever problem you had, and it will call it back, and then you can use that answer. So if you ended up with a number that was, say, 10,583,204, and you wanted to either re-enter it, or you could just hit second answer to recall that answer, and then say divided by 5 or whatever, then you can get an answer. Conversion. The conversion button is my favorite button on this calculator. It's this button right here. And that conversion button converts fractions to decimals, and it converts the results in terms of pi. And I'll show you that as we get to these other numbers. Decimal, 0 on, those are pretty basic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, your operations, divide, multiply, subtract, and add are all basic numbers. But this conversion button is new. So with it, it does convert to decimals and from terms of pi to the whole number itself, or to a number itself. So let's move on to square root, which is this button right here, square. So that x2, or x to the second power, means whatever number I put in is then squared. So if I hit 5 and then hit that button and then hit enter, it'll give me an answer of 25. Just above that button, the second. So if I hit second, if I want to do the second one here, the square root of 81, I would hit second and then that same button. So the second means I'm using the green button, just like a shift button. I'm using the green ones above the actual button. So if I hit second x squared, now I have it in a square root, one of these guys, and then I enter in 81 and then I hit enter. And when I do, my answer should be 9. If you don't have 9, try it again. Make sure that you hit second first, and then you hit that x squared button. So the second means that symbol, and then enter in my 81, and then hit enter. and I should get that. Now, the next one's a little trickier. Same concept. I'll hit second and that x squared, and then I'll enter in 72. And when I hit enter, it gives me 6 times the square root of 2, which is fine and all, but sometimes that's not the answer you want. It's giving you a simplistic form. So when you have an answer like 6 on the square root of 2, what you have to do then is you have to hit the convert button to get an actual whole number. That actual whole number should be 8.485, and it keeps on going decimal-wise. But just remember that conversion button, this button right here, is your friend when it comes to converting. Next, we'll have higher powers and roots. So this button right here is called the caret key. And if you do a second, that would be a higher root of a number. So if I just said second, oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to the first one, 2 to the 5th. So if I said 2, and then I hit that caret key, and then I hit 5. And what you'll have is a 2 with a little 5 up above it, and then you hit enter, and you should get an answer of 32. This means this is 2 times itself 5 times. The next one is going to be 8 to the 3rd power. So you just enter in 8 caret button 3. So 8 caret 3, and your answer will be 512. This is 8 times 8 times 8. Now let's do the roots. So to do that one, you first have to enter in the actual root. So this first one, the 3rd root of 27, you'll first enter in that 3, because that's the 3rd root. So you'll enter in the 3, and then you'll hit second and that caret button. And what that does is that says the number I just entered, which is x, will be on the outside. Now that I've done that, now I enter in 27 on the inside. And my answer will be 3, because 3 times 3 times 3 will give you 27. So let's do the next one then. So the next one will be the 4th root. So I'll hit 4, then I'll hit second, and then that caret button. Now it's the 4th root, and then I'll enter in 100. And your answer will be 3.16, and it keeps on going, meaning that 3.16 times 3.16 times 3.16 times 3.16 will give you a grand total of 100. Next, we'll look at parentheses. So parentheses are important because they're valuable when entering problems. So if you have a long, complex problem, what you'll need to do is use the parentheses to kind of separate out. So if you had to add 3 plus 2 first and then say times 6, you would actually do parentheses 3 plus 2, close parentheses, and then say times 6, and then times 6. If you open a parentheses, you always have to close it. If you don't, you'll get a syntax error. Next, we're going to look at percent. So percent is, where'd it go? Is the button above the parentheses. So you have to use second and then open parentheses to access percent. So what is 30% of 50? So 30% of 50 is 30% times 50. So you can say 50 times 30. So you'll do 50 times 30, and then hit second and percent. Second percent, and your answer should be 15. You could do it the other way around. You could say 30% times 50, which is good for this one because sometimes calculators get weird about where the percent is placed in the problem, like first or second. The next one asks, what is 8% of 60? So to do that one, 8% is what percent of 60? I'm sorry. So you'll say 8 divided by 60. And when you do, you'll get 0.13333333. And now I want to convert it though to percent. So I'm going to say second, close parentheses. When I say second, close parentheses, all it's really doing is it's converting it to a percent. And it's 13.33333%. pi. Pi is very important for all circular measurements. So you use pi. You could use 3.14, but pi gives you a much more accurate answer. So to use pi, like in this problem here, if a plate has a radius of 3, what is the area of the plate? So you'll say pi times radius squared. So to do that, you'll just hit pi, which is right there. Oh, pi, and then you'll say times, and the radius is 3, and so it's 3, and then you got to use the x squared because it's squared. And that answer will give you 9 pi. That means still 9 times pi. If you want to get a whole number answer, though, you'll have to hit that convert button right there. And if you do that, it'll give you 28.27, and it keeps on going. Same thing for the next problem. If a can of paint has a radius of 4 and a height of 6, what is the volume? So yet again, you'll first hit pi, and then after you hit pi, you'll say times, and the radius of this one's 4, and then it's x squared because you're squaring that. So you hit that x squared button, and then say times the height, and the height is 6. And you'll get an answer of 96 pi, which the test may have 96 pi as an answer. But if it doesn't have 96 times pi, if it just has 96, that's not correct unless the question asks, describe your answer in terms of pi. So then you convert it, and you'll get 301.59. Next, we're going to look at fractions. So fractions are a little tricky to do in a calculator always. So you use this button right here, n over d, numerator over denominator. So for these numerator-denominator type fractions, you can hit n over d first. And then I would hit 3. So you hit n over d, then you hit 3. And so what you have now is a 3 in the top and a blank in the bottom. So then you got to press down on the direction pad to fill in on the bottom, and that would be a 4 because it's 3/4. Then you have to hit over to get out of the fraction. If you don't get out of the fraction, you're going to end up trying to add 4 to something, and it's supposed to be 3/4. So I hit over to the right to get out of that fraction, and then I'll say plus, and then I got to do it again. N over d, 1, and then down, and then 9, and then over. And then I'll hit enter. And when I do, I get 31 over 36. So let's do it for multiplication real quick just to make sure we got it. First, we start off with this 2/5 times 1/2 is going to be n over d, and then 2, and then down, and then 5. And then over to get out of the fraction itself. We'll go over to the right on the directional pad. Then you have to say times, which times, obviously, and then n over d again, 1, and then you got to go down, and then 2. And you can go over from here, or you can just hit enter, because this is the end of the problem. Go ahead and hit over and make it a good practice to go over to the right just to clear out of the fraction. And so your answer should be 1/5. Now, if you have a mixed number, you have to utilize the green button that's right above that. So let's do this first one. This first one, you'll just hit n over d because it's 3/5. So n over d, 3, and then down, and then 5, and then over to the right. When I say over, I mean over to the right. Plus, and now you hit second, and that n over d. And so then it's 4, and then you have to hit over to start filling in the top part of the fractional part. Then 1, and then down, and then 5, and then over. And when you enter, you'll get 24 over 5. So that was, run that through again, n over d, 3 down 5 over plus second n over d, 4 over 1 down 5 over enter. And that'll give you 24 over 5. So 24 over 5 is your answer here. Now, if your answer on the test is a two-number fraction like this with a numerator and denominator, 24 over 5 is absolutely fine. But if you need to convert that to a mixed number, then what you do is you have to hit second after you've got your answer, 24 over 5. You'll hit second in that x10n, and what that does is that converts it from numerator denominator to whole number or unit numerator denominator, and that answer is 4 4/5. Same thing for the next problem. Let's enter that one in. So it's second unit numerator denominator, so second unit numerator denominator 2, and then we'll go over to the right and 2, and then down sevenths, and then over to the right again, times, and then second unit numerator denominator, 1 over, and 1, and then where'd it go? Down, and then 8, and then over. And you'll get 18 over 7. The calculator always defaults back to a numerator-denominator type of fraction. So if you need to convert again, you'll again hit second and that x10n, second x10n. So it says n over d converted to unit numerator over denominator. And so you'll hit enter, and it's 2 4/7. So converting decimal, let's convert 5/8 to a decimal. That's going to be the next one we're going to do. We're just going to go through all the fraction parts first. So right above table is F to D, fraction to decimal. So we're first going to enter in the fraction 5/8. So to do that, you'll hit numerator denominator, which is right there, numerator denominator 5, and then we'll go down 8, and then we'll go over to the right. So we use over to the right, and then you hit second table, and that converts from fraction to decimal. When you hit enter, you get 0.625. This is very handy if you have a problem that involves fractions and you need to convert it to a decimal. It's very handy for that. All right, let's look at scientific notation real quick. Scientific notation is this x10n, is what that is. So the planet benzoid is 6.2 times 10 to the 5th. That's another way to write to the 5th power light years away from Earth. The planet Noid is 8.4 times 10 to the 6th light years from past benzoid. So how far is Noid from Earth? So this is a simple addition problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 6.2 times 10 to the 5th plus 8.4 times 10 to the 6th. So to do that, you'll just say 6.2 second x10n. Oh, not second. I'm sorry. Let's try that again. 6.2 x10n. And so what it does is it'll say times 10, and then you just put in your 5. So let me walk you through that right here real quick. 6.2 x10n 5. And then you have to hit over to get out of that power. Plus, because this is just a simple addition problem. And then you're going to say 8.4. So 8.4. And then that x10n. And that's to the 6th. And then you hit enter. And your answer will be 9,020,000. That's it. That's how you do that one. The directional pad is very, very convenient and very important for using in all your fraction problems. So to enter in the 1 2/3, I got to hit second, this unit numerator denominator button. Then I hit 1, then I got to go over, then 2, then down, then 3. Then I got to go over because I got to say I'm adding that whole fraction, so plus, and then 4, and then I hit enter. Also, it's good to move beyond square roots. So in this one, if I said 2 plus, and then I hit second square root 144, then I have to hit over to get out of, over to the right, to get out of that square root, and then say divided by 7. And then I hit enter, and that'll give me that answer. That is a quick and brief tutorial of how to use the TI-30 scientific calculator.